Hi, I'm Marlon Gould. There are issues that greatly impact the Black ethnicity. In our series, The Value of Life in the Black Community, we will be interviewing guests as we discuss the problems and the solutions for the Black community. I hope you'll join us. Thank you for joining us as we continue our conversation with Cyril Prabhu, originally from Southeast India. And he came to the United States to work for Bank of America, had an encounter with crime, where he was a part of a robbery in the sense that he was part of a group that was robbed. And, you know, through a series of events, God led him to have a heart for the prison ministry because he realized these guys, you know, they're going to end up in jail and somebody needs to reach them so they do not, you know, keep doing these things. So he participated in prison ministry over the years. You know, they were all basically doing the same thing, trying to stop the guy, get the guys saved and stop them from coming back to jail. But Cyril began to realize that something else needed to be done because even though prison ministry was working to a certain extent, the prison population was increasing in a phenomenal way. Yes, some guys were not coming back to jail, but more and more were coming in. So when we left off last time, he was talking about the statistics of the children and young people in being incarcerated in some type of a criminal justice system. And then we're going to finish talk about that, and then we're going to talk about the plan that God gave him. So Cyril, let's just kind of review that point there. It was like 4,500 a day.
Correct. So that's a nationally.
Nationally, about 4,500 a day. Children and young people are in some type of a criminal justice program.
Mm-hmm. Child Defense Fund's been tracking this information for a long time, right? Mm-hmm. And what alarmed me, you know, Pastor, is this, that, you know, we know this data. Right? These children are going fastly in there to that prison system, and we were not doing anything about it. So we were always focused on recidivism. We were focused on repeat offense, right?
And basically, when we think of prison ministry, we never thought about children.
Children, yes.
You know, and young people. We just thought about the grown people.
Correct.
In the regular prison.
Correct.
And that's where the target was.
Correct. A country like America has 63,000 children below the age 18 serving time in prison. That alarmed me. And, you know, 10,000 of these children were 13 and under.
Wow.
And 3,000 are serving time for life without parole.
What?
In this country, right?
Wait a minute. You mean they're under 18 years old that are serving life without parole. In other words, there's no hope of them getting out.
Correct. Many of these children are getting arrested as teenagers, spend 30 years, 45 years in prison. By the time they get out of the prison, everything in their life is sucked out.
Wow.
You know, many of these guys, you know, that go through this journey, Pastor Go, is like, you know, a perfect opportunity because now we have these guys, the younger population coming into prison. So that's why the average age of inmates in this country is coming down. Because we're arresting every day younger kids and younger men into the prison system. So we are always fighting this as like an African American issue, and we're, you know, we're losing these children to the system. Now, when I took that data, and we cannot take this into a data kind of an argument. It has to make sense to the guys inside the prison. So I told them, if we have to fix this problem for our children, you know, we need to first give them education. That was my mindset to start with. Because there was a data that was pointing that says, if you are an African American male child that does not finish high school, then your chance of going into a prison, jail, or die before the age 30 is pretty high. So I took that data, educational data, and said, oh, maybe it's the educational problem, right? So I went into prison, took school supplies inside, and I asked these guys to pack school supplies during a summertime so I can go give it to their children. So there were 108 guys that packed the school supplies. We were like, Yahoo, this is the first thing we're doing inside the prison. So I took the school supplies to each different cities. So I went to this place called Columbia, South Carolina, because I was in Kershaw Correctional. This was in South Carolina. That's where I started the journey. And the reason why I went there is because South Carolina was, in 2012, the #1 employer of South Carolina was Department of Correction. So that's why I went to South Carolina. People ask, like, why South Carolina instead of North Carolina? That's why. Now, I took the school supplies to Columbia, South Carolina. 88 kids were supposed to come pick it up. This was the first event. So I had Sheriff of Columbia there. I had pastors from the local community, chaplains, wardens. I had like a music band, amazing music band. I had volunteers come. I had Coca-Cola serve food. So I had like a big plans, right? Out of 88 children, Pastor Gold, only 4 showed up.
Wow.
It was almost like somebody threw a hand into my heart and just pulled it out, threw it on the floor and stomped on it. I didn't know what to do. So I sent the school supplies over to their families, and the people actually threw the bags outside.
Wow.
They didn't want to do anything with them. And I was crying and I was saying, God, what am I doing wrong? I thought education will fix this problem, you know? And that's the first time I realized, Pastor Gold, there's so much of hurt and pain and scar in the lives of these families and these children. Education, yes, we need to deal with education, but before that, we need to reconcile that relationship. We need to heal that child. We need to give a child a detox environment in their heart. So 2013, the second year, I took 18 kids to see their fathers. But this time, I've prepped their fathers, and I took them inside. And the prison system was just bold to allow me to take those 18 kids in to see their fathers. And I told those fathers, if you want to sign up your kids into this program, you have to get on your knees and wash your children's feet and ask for forgiveness. Pastor, those 18 fathers who washed their children's feet got released the following years.
Wow.
And 12 years has gone by, not even one of them has come back to prison.
Wow.
Pastor, washing of these feet, asking for forgiveness, and humbling themselves is what the Christ showed as a model to us. And so that one simple act has changed the way we were thinking about this whole prison ministry. And so soon what happened is, like, I would go from one prison to the second prison, similar results. Nationally, if a person gets released from prison, in the first 30 to 90 days, they will come back in. 70% will come back in.
70% are back in within 90 days.
90 days, 30 to 90 days. Here, we are clocking 0% recidivism that are washing their children. This is not a 2,000-year-old story. This is alive, well, at this point.
This is what happens when God takes you out of the box.
Yes.
You know, because there's this is the way we do it, this is the way we do it, and God says, if you'll listen to me, I'll give you a creative ideas, because I know how this I know how this thing works.
Yes.
You know, he's so much wiser.
Amen.
You know?
Amen. So then the news gets into Governor Nikki Haley's ears, and she invites me to her office, and she says, like, Cyril, what are you doing? I keep hearing about your name in South Carolina. So I told her what I'm doing. And so she opened up the doors for me to go to pretty much like all prisons in South Carolina.
Wow.
And so the journey started there, Pastor. But I had like 2 things that I wanted to do. Number one, I want to reconcile the relationship. Pastor, if we have to bring crime in this nation, we have to bring the fathers back into the lives of these children.
So right now, what we're seeing, what we're coming to right now in this conversation, is that you found out, this is what the Lord showed you.
Yes.
By giving you the instructions on what to do. We see that restoring the relationships of the fathers and the children is key.
Correct.
Key to stopping the recidivism.
Absolutely.
And then other things too, but we're going to get to other things as well.
Correct.
But you see that was, because you said 18 of those fathers who did that
Right.
did not come back.
Come back into prison.
Did not come back to prison.
12 years has gone by.
12 years, whereas statistics show that 70% will be back within 90 days.
90 days.
Wow.
And so the second thing, for sure, we wanted to help them with the education, right? And so we took, the phone calls to these families. By then, by the summer of 2013, Pastor, we had like 59 kids that were ready to go to college, or college-age kids. So we picked up the phone, called them. Out of the 59, 30 were already in prison. 19 of them were pregnant, could not go to school. 10 of them were doing 6th or 7th grade. Pastor, we couldn't even find one kid in 2013 that could go to college.
Okay, so let's break this down here. So you're solving the issue with the recidivism,
Right.
but you already knew that you had to do something with the children.
Correct.
Okay, and so now you have this wonderful idea of getting them in college, getting them,
Scholarship.
educated, etc. Except by the time you got to them,
I was
you
late.
know, you were too late. They were already involved in something that hindered them from being able to finish their education.
Absolutely. Pastor, the kids in the streets at the age 7 selling drugs. We have kids by the age 13. This is the only country in the world to incarcerate 13-year-olds into prison. In Indiana, Wabash Correctional, they're even talking about putting these young kids below the age 18 with adults.
Wow.
So we're, going in this wrong direction, right? And so we want to help them with education. Why, Pastor? Because this country has lost its vision for education. Seriously.
Right.
6.6 million children are dropping out of high school every single year.
Wow.
25% of these kids are dropping out of high school. After they get to the high school, 25% are dropping out. Why? Because they're already above the age 13. If they have done something wrong, the cops are waiting in schools to arrest these kids, and the kids are not going to school, right? And so education has to come to the forefront, because that was what somebody threw that rope for me to hang on, the education, you know? And so because these fathers kept washing their children's feet and asking for forgiveness, the second year we were able to send 3 kids to college.
Okay, so the turnaround begins.
Yes.
With the reconciliation.
Absolutely. It has to. The 3 things that are so crucial, Pastor. Number 1, Christ has to be the forefront of this battlefield.
Right.
We have taken Christ out of this equation, and we are expecting a problem to be solved. So we have never compromised on the Christ, nor the blood, nor the redemption, nor the cross. The kids were told the redemptive plan that God has. Number 2, we want to reconcile their relationship with the fathers washing their children's feet. And number 3, we wanted to send them to college. Why? Because the statistic says 1 out of 8 kid that drops out of high school ends up in a prison. Right? 75% of the national crime in this country is done by high school dropouts.
What? Say that again.
75% of the national crime in this country is done by high school dropouts.
Wow, that's huge.
When they go to college, it goes from 1 out of 8 kid to 1 out of 100 kid.
Okay.
So
if you can get them educated, then it reduces the possibility of them
going into prison.
Well, we're out of time for this segment. Join us next time as we continue this exciting interview with Cyril Prabhu about how God took him to prison ministry and gave him a marvelous idea to stop prisoners from coming back and to stop their children from coming in. Thank you for listening. We hope you'll join us again as we continue to discuss the value of life in the Black community.